The Green Party is battling for fair coverage as media relies on shock factor of reform, UK leaders say. We're going to read into this more from Byline Times, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with an article from Byline Times with the headline that the Green Party is battling for fair coverage as media relies on shock factor of reform, UK leaders say. As reform dominates the media spotlight amid rumours Conservatives' defections, the Green Party's co-leaders call out the UK's media for its disproportionate coverage of hard right figures. Guys, while you're here, before giving us your thoughts, if you can hit the like button and share it across social media so others are notified of this video. So I'm somebody who, I'm definitely not a Labour person, and I am pretty much almost certainly going to be voting for Green at the next general election, because where I am in my constituencies of a Labour stronghold, and I don't see the point for me personally to benefiting of voting Labour anyway. You guys know, but those of you who have been following my channel for a while and know my thoughts, my position about the Conservatives. Now, I know that the Green Party have had one or two, let's say, slip-ups when it comes to certain trans issues that have been taking place within its party. These have been one of the main issues that's been taking place within the Green Party, and it is something that they need to address. The fact that Reform UK are getting so much media coverage just shows just how out of whack the media really is in this country. Now, I'm not saying that the Green Party should be getting tons and tons of media coverage, and I'm not saying that the Lib Dems should either. However, it is important that the media gives a fair game for these political parties when it comes to showing media, and we don't get anywhere near enough of it. The Green Party, for whatever you might think of them, guys, they have been making gains in council seats over the last few years, and these by-elections and the voting numbers have been showing that. Now, whether or not they will gain more than one MP or not at the next general election will certainly be up for debate. They are targeting at this moment. The understanding is they're looking to gain at least 3 seats at the general election. I think it's a big target. Whether they can or not will be another thing, because of the way the system is proportionately unfair. But because they have been building roots in council seats, the Green Party certainly should be given a little bit, in my opinion, a bit more coverage and a little bit more spotlight. We seem to be giving so much spotlight to Richard Tice and Reform UK. You hear about them. They're getting literally got put on LBC. You have Richard Tice all the time on the right-wing news such as GB News. And obviously there's all the talk with what's happening with Lee Anderson right now about whether he will, whether he not join Reform, and that's not really what this is about. The coverage has just not been fair. And you can say the same about the Lib Dems as well. We see plenty of media coverage for Conservatives, for Labour, for Reform, but why are we not giving enough fair game, guys? This is a party that is growing. It's making ground. People are talking about it behind the scenes. There's whispers and whatnot. Why are we not talking more about the Green Party? You know, this is, yes, they're not radical like the like Reform, but just because they're not Reform, we're not going to talk about them. Just because they're not have backers behind them, we're not going to talk about them. And this is the problem. This is why we need media reform, guys. We need to have media reform. It needs to change, and it needs to be more fairer. Our tabloids and press are not fair. They're not fair. We know they're not fair, and that's why they're able to kind of dictate. They can't completely control the British public, but they certainly do try to paint a picture for what's really happening in the world, and they don't always paint a fairer picture for it. And Byline Times is one of the few that I generally do trust when it comes to reporting. Are they 100% perfect? No, but they're about as close as you can get to probably about the most fairest of them. And the thing about Byline Times is that which we're going to read into this article, guys, is they're not controlled by some billionaire backer or something, or foreign owner as well. The way that they operate things, which is why people are looks to them a lot more than other medias, and they come across very different, incredibly differently to others out there. So let's read what they have to say in this report. So hard figures like those in Reform UK are covered by the UK's media far more than the Greens because of the outlook like the shock factor of amplifying deliberate, proactive voices, the Green co-leaders have told Byline Times. As the media mania grows over the potential defection of disgraced ex-Conservative Lee Anderson to Reform UK, Green Party of England and Wales, the co-leader Carla Denyer said, the media landscape in the UK just doesn't reflect the news. It shapes it by who they invite to TV. That's it. That is the problem. Unfortunately, there's a long tradition in this country of inviting hard right or even far right politicians on because they provide a shock factor. Negative news sells, whereas Greens offer sensible, practical solutions that voters actually want to see, she told Byline Times. Now, you can have this. We can have a general discussion about what you think about certain Green policies or not, but I do believe that they have some very sensible, very down-to-earth policies. But because they're not flash in the pan and they're not calling rhetoric and whatnot, which is why they don't want to talk about them, the media, you know. And the thing is that do you know, if you're listening to this, you're from the UK, you're from England in particular, or Wales. Let's just put Scotland aside for a moment, because they at least have a buyout in the SNP. You know, do you want a party that's going to be making lots and lots of rattling noises, or do you just want a party that's actually going to do its job, and that is govern? You know. Labour, for all intents and purposes, we know Labour are going to shoehorn in, very likely to win the general election. There's a lot of distrust in Labour. Now you can argue, obviously, that's because of the media as well, and yes, the media has played a factor into how you position yourself when you think about Labour. There's no question about that. But Labour have also shot themselves in the foot a lot more than the Green Party have, in my opinion. With some of their U-turns on policies that could actually make a difference to people's lives, and I think that's a fair argument in that. But people want to know what you're actually going to do, and Labour have not been very clear about that. And trust me, everyone is going to be looking at a microscope exactly what Labour's manifesto is going to be. Now, I'm generally fascinated to read the Green Party's manifesto, and I'm going to be sharing it as soon as it does become available, because I want people to see that there are alternatives out there. I know people who are very hell-bent. I know there are some subscribers who are very hell-bent on stopping any and all immigration on my channel, and they actually generally believe that reform can actually do that for them. They're not really going to do that for you. They just want to take your rights away. They do a lot of saber rattling and a lot of saber talk. You know, we talk about, you know, the whole Brexit party and whatnot. They didn't, you know, we're 4 years on, and you know, it's still the talk about it. It's still not going away. And it's so frustrating, to say the least, guys. The Green Party and Reform UK were pretty much neck and neck in the polls until as recently as November 2023, according to Politico poll of polls. Back then, both parties hovered around 6% support. Greens have remained steady around 6% since, while Reform UK have climbed to 10% amid frantic talk of Conservative defections to the party and responsible by-election upsets. Yeah, the media has exacerbated the reform, and they've talked about being an alternative to the Conservatives, which is hence why people have gone from there, because simply they believe that they don't trust Labour to be the ones to govern the country. Whatever you might say about Labour, there are just people out there who just don't trust Labour. They just don't trust Labour. They don't trust Keir Starmer, and it's just their prerogative, their choice. You can't change that. There's just some people who are just with that mindset. It is what it is, unfortunately. So where do Green voters come from then? I would say, so if I were to put on the spot, so where does Green voters come from? Well, I think Green voters come from all sorts of parties, and I think it's come from what people have learnt from the next generation of those who actually still listening to politics, new, young, and up and comers. Some people who've heard what they've had to say and what they're about. Um, I think they've come from a bit from each different parties, if I'm honest. So a bit of Conservative, a bit of Labour, a bit of Lib Dem. I think that's where it is. Um, and I generally do think if we had proportional representation, they would be. They could definitely be one. I could see definitely one gaining a lot of seats if we ever had proportional representation. Same can be said for reform. Um, no question about that. But I think that's where it has grown over the long years that they have been around, and they've done very well for themselves given the circumstances of our political system. So Richard Tice's Reform UK, the ex-Brexit party previously led by Nigel Farage, appears to receive significantly more media attention than the Greens despite their relatively close polling figures. There have been around 43,000 media mentions of the Green Party in England, Wales and the UK wide over the past year according to Google News analysis. But there has been nearly 88,000 media mentions for Reform UK in that time. While it is not comprehensive metrics, it offers an indication of the different levels of attention. Speaking to this outlet, fellow Green Party of England and Wales co-leader Adrian Ramsay also expressed his anger over the UK's media coverage. Look at the Green Party's real sustained strength. There are hundreds of councillors we have elected across the country. Our level of strength is higher than UK's was at its peak, and we're way ahead of where the Reform Party is. The media needs to review where it's putting its attention because the Greens are growing in support, the Waveney Valley parliamentary candidate added. Denver told Byline Times Greens will become harder and harder to ignore the more people they get elected. The Association of Green Councillors said there are now over 750 principal authority councillors across England and Wales, along with over 400 councillors in towns and parish councillors. By contrast, there are just 8 Reform UK councillors, all of them are men. That says a lot. Again, like the more ground that the Greens gain, the more the media cannot ignore them. And there will come a tipping point where they will be forced to start talking about the Greens parties more, instead of just talking about whenever a scandal or something brings up related to the Green Party. They will be forced to, because you can't ignore a party that's gaining traction by people. 750 principal authority councillors across England and Wales. And Reform UK councils only have 8. It says a lot. You know, yes, you can argue, yes, but Reform are stealing a lot of votes from Conservatives, yeah. But how many of them are going to be voting for Reform again? How many of them are actually going to stick to Reform? You know, if it's no longer about immigration, what are they going to? You know, let's just say hypothetically, immigration. Let's say hypothetically, immigration gets sorted by next UK government. We know it won't get completely sorted, but let's just say hypothetically, they found a way to reduce the numbers and they knock it down. You still going to stick with Reform? What else are they going to offer you? Can you name other policies that they're going to do besides stopping the boats, besides immigration? Can you name some in the comment section down below? Ramsay also said the party has begun picking up support in areas where there is high Muslim populations and where people are campaigning hard for this end to this brutal war in Gaza. The party has just launched a Muslim Greens group. A recent Salvation poll showed Greece support was growing among Muslims. Ramsay said in areas of the country where there is strong sentiment against this war, people realise that the Greens are the ones who are willing to speak out and say that we want a ceasefire on both sides. He claimed that despite Sir Keir Starmer's party's recent shift to back an immediate humanitarian ceasefire, it's hard to tell exactly where Labour is standing. Dorena added that the party is now trying to elect more Muslim councillors to be representative of its voter base. It doesn't happen overnight. It's about diversing your membership and then from that diversing your candidates and your elected representatives. We are halfway through selecting our parliamentary candidates all across England and Wales, the last I heard, which was about 2 weeks ago. We selected about 3/4 of them, primarily diversity data based on ones we selected are really good for us. In other words, the Greens expect their candidates to broadly reflect the diversity of their population. Denver is standing in the Bristol Central and hopes to become the party's second MP after Caroline Lucas in Brighton Pavilion. Syrian Berry MP is standing for the Greens there as Lucas steps down. Recent polls suggest the 2 seats are the most winnable for the party. Ramsay is also hopeful about his chances in Waveney Valley. Yeah, so these are the 3 yeah, so obviously Brighton and Hove, which Caroline Lucas has been a fantastic MP in the House. I think she's been absolutely brilliant. Whether or not Bristol Central, they've been making a lot of gains. They've been getting a lot of traction within Bristol. Whether or not they'll be actually take a seat is a big step. If they was, it would be fantastic. And Waveney Valley is obviously another one they've been looking at as well. Asked how the party would fund its recent announcements to double Labour's now abandoned commitment to spend £28 billion a year on green investment, Denver said, I can't get into details about the climate investment. We won't rely totally on borrowing because we are not afraid to reform the tax system to give us more progressive wealth taxes and equal capital gains tax with income tax. Between them, they will raise tens of billions of pounds, which means you can transition to net zero to invest in public service. She expressed her hope for a Conservative defeat at the next general election, adding, I hope they get kicked in the ballot box. It will cause the Conservatives to take a look at themselves and the direction they've been heading the last few years. Denver also revealed that the Green Party's vetting procedure were under review after the party withdraws support for its own candidate in Rochdale. There is now no official Labour or Green candidate in this week's by-election following suspensions. Yeah, the Green candidate for Rochdale has also made past Islamophobic comments. So their vetting procedure has been put into question, and rightfully so. They need to make sure at the general election that candidates that they put up, candidates to put up the Greens, they need to make sure that they are sensible people, that they have no terrible background and whatnot. It really, really is important. Guy Otten appears to be suspended for regrettable social media comments from a few years ago, apparently criticising Palestinians and Islam. She said it was obviously far from an ideal situation, but the party used this as an opportunity to review our process to try and make sure that this situation doesn't happen again. The Greens are planning a full slate of candidates in this year's general election in England and Wales, despite the party's relatively lack of limelight. Denver added her hope is that the party can secure 3 to 4 MPs this year to influence a potential Labour government. You've seen the outside influences that Caroline Lucas has had, really punching above her weight as one of Green MPs in the House of Commons. Imagine the impact would be if we had quadrupled that and had 4 Green MPs. Yeah, like I said, if you've been covering politics and been watching closely, you've seen Caroline Lucas and the impact that she's making. She's been made some very, very, very powerful speeches. Now, if you can get more people like her in the House of Commons, there can be some real optimism, and perhaps even go as far as to say there could be some even trust. Trust could be potentially restored within politics. Like I said, the Greens are not perfect, but they are about as close as we can get to something that I would consider favourable right now. Yes, like I said, they have problems, but we've had the Lib Dems had their opportunity in 2010, and they threw themselves under a bus by gluing themselves to the Conservatives. They got their opportunity in power, and they squandered it. And they talked and bragged in 2019 about, or their leader at the time, about becoming Prime Minister. A lot of waffle from them, and they shot themselves in the foot again. The Lib Dems have lost a lot of trust within the public. The Greens need to be given an opportunity to have a go. They need to be given an opportunity and have a chance at doing it. Like I said, I know the first past the post system makes it hard for them, and I can understand if you're one of these people who are in one of those tight seats and you're going to be planning on voting Labour from a tactical perspective in order to oust the Conservatives, and I totally respect that opinion. I respect that right if that's something that you believe. However, if you're not 100% sure, if you're having questions about the Labour and the Conservatives, if you're from England and Wales, and you want an alternative, give Greens a try. Check out their policies. Go to their website, Green Party. I'll put a link in the description if you want to check out their website, and have a think for yourself. They may be a party that you may want to get behind. So what do you guys think? Do you think the Green Party are being victimised here when it comes to the media? Do you think that they are not getting the fairer coverage here like Reform are? Certainly does seem that way, in my opinion. But what do you guys honestly think about this article? What do you think about the Green Party itself in comparison to Reform and other parties in the comments section down below? Eager to hear your thoughts. If you found this video interesting and my thoughts may be interesting to you, please hit the like button, be greatly appreciated. Share this across social media so others are aware of this video. And hit that bell notification icon so you'll be notified of whenever I upload another video. And subscribe, because it really does help support the channel. And if you want to go one step further and financially support me in the work I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p, or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content there as well. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.